I'm actually taking advantage of the Saturn retrograde that just started a couple of days ago and attempting to finish up some work that I started about 5 months ago when the Saturn retrograde started its shadow. All right. And I was looking at another astrologer speaking on it, and they were talking about how look back and see what projects you started during that shadow period and go back and finish them. And you'll probably reap some unreal reward, some unbelievable, tangible reward that you won't be expecting because of where Taurus is right now. I'm sorry, Uranus is right now. Uranus is in Taurus, which rules, tangible goods. Not, it doesn't rule tangible goods, but it rules physical stuff. But anyway, let me focus because I'm doing a simulcast for YouTube. Because the project that I started 5 months ago was parts of publishing, an introduction. The part one was an introduction. So part two, I'm jumping in and going ahead and starting with the setting up your business as far as setting up a publishing house from a Moorish perspective, hence the title. So I put it in as setting it up from a Moorish perspective because, considering who this is geared towards, I don't think I need to explain that. But if you need explanation, please email me at califamedia.com. califamedia@gmail.com, or you can email me at editor@califamedia.com. Okay, so a few months ago, I started a Parts of Publishing series because I misinterpreted a question from one of our authors at Califa Media. And I've instead of him coming to me to keep answering, certain questions, I'm like, why don't you just set up your own publishing house? Because I don't like the fact that there's just me. As far as I know, there's just me and Rosmarie Bay putting out books, which is kind of cool. It's like that the women are leading it. That's a good sign. So, like I said, I misinterpreted the question, and I figured, why don't I just go ahead and do it anyway? Because Amor had asked me. I'm trying to be cool with myself and say a few months back, but I think it was actually a few years back, saying that I should just start telling Moors how I do this, because I really don't like the idea of being the only one out here putting out books. I like how it's set up. Califa Media is kind of the Moors who studied under R.V. Bay Publications and went and verified that information. They wrote it down and came to Califa Media to put out their books. And the books are really short because I know our people. It's kind of a shady motto that says Califa Media, we're books for people who can't read. And it's not it's not because we think you're illiterate. It's because we know you're purposely distracted. You have to deal with survival, which is why you can't read. Not that you don't want to, not that you're not able to, right? So the books are really short. But I recognize, as a parent myself, that whereas we're getting the abridged version, I'm going to set this up for people who are teaching this to their children who will expand upon it, right? So in anticipation of that expansion, let me make sure that you know how to set up a business using the statutory construct that we find ourselves in at this moment. And that's a whole nother conversation. But to keep it short, and because it does relate to this, I'm of the opinion, and I have a theory, that the way the United States is currently set up, I'm of the opinion we should keep it just the way it is, right? Except let the Moors, who know they're Moors, switch places with the Masons, right? So the way the Masons have it set up, we operate the same way everybody else does, but we get certain perks because we're Masons. Take out that Mason part and replace it with Moors, right? Because I personally don't want everyone to leave, to go back to where they came from, because they really did help. They contributed to what's going on right now, to how prosperous this nation is. So I'm of the opinion, keep it in place, and I don't pay taxes. You keep right on doing what you're doing. Let's make this a smooth transition, except instead of paying the United States all that tribute, those taxes, aka tribute, come to us. And if you don't like it, if the hate is just that strong, you're welcome to go back to where you came from, right? That being said, I'm going to use what's in place right now. I know that I actually have an outline, and I'm kind of getting off of it. And this part is actually in the outline at the end. And I know there are Moors who say, oh, no, we got to go through the temple. I agree, right? But, and they say that we're compromised by using stuff that's in that the state has control over. I also agree to an extent, because the same thing that I'm using right now to just slide on through and get stuff done, rather than be like, I insist that you recognize what is right, that is correct. You should be recognizing us as who we are on this land. Meanwhile, I'm not getting nothing done while I'm arguing with you. So I take the other way. I'm taking the back door, so to speak. And I'm saying keep the back door. All right. So this treatise or speech, whatever you want to call it, is set up. So give me just a second. I got to take this off. All right, just say I did it. This one is saying, okay, we're going to assume that we're going to be keeping this stuff in place because from my observation, the other nations that come here, yes, they have to give up their nationality to become United States citizens, blah, blah, blah. They're using it. When something happens, they still exert the fact that they are of a certain nation, which is, even the prophet instructed us, every nation when they come here is required to declare their nationality, right? That doesn't mean, if I get a license, I'm a slave to the state. Really? Because when I look at how the Chinese people are moving, that doesn't seem to be the case, right? Yes, I know how to contract, right? Let me just get into this thing, because I'm like already some minutes in. I'm gonna get into my parts of publishing, because I actually have an outline, and I will be all over the place because it's Gemini season, and I'm a Gemini, so that's not a good combination. It's a great combination, not for the purpose of staying on track, which is why I made an outline. All right, so who am I? I am Sister Tahita Najiola L. I prefer to be referred to be called Zarabe. All right. That's a long story for another day. My big three, my sun, moon, rising, are Gemini sun, Leo moon, Libra rising. So I love to do creative things in conjunction with or cooperation with other people. All right. Hence what I do. I'm about my father's work. And when I say my father's work, and I'm filming this on my computer as well. So for the people who see this later on YouTube, please absolve me. I'm looking at my tablet that's simulcasting to stereo. And shout out to Kay and to Lee Bay for being here today. I'm going to try to keep this short because I don't know how much. I'm actually doing this finally because since Saturn is retrograde, backing up to that, it's retrograde in my 5th house. So I have been relieved of my children, but I don't know how long for how long. So let me hurry up and get this done. All right. So let's see. I'm about my father's work, right? And by my father, I'm using the traditional patrilineal reference to Allah and the prophets that have come through that are actually like lauded, not just recognized, lauded, right? So in this case, I'm going to refer to the work that Noble Drew Ali instructed us to do, right? And my own father, who was big into activism, and he was a member of the Nation of Islam in Chicago. And when he passed, he was no longer a member of the Nation of Islam. He called himself a submitter, and he had a bruise on his forehead. It was really cool. What else do I do? I'm a homeschooling, stay-at-home mom, entrepreneur, philanthropist. I think that's plenty. And my entrepreneurial endeavors are Califa Media, Purple Paperclip, What Moors Eat, the Moorish National Sisters Auxiliary. There's probably a few more, but that's what I can think of right now. And my philanthropy endeavors for now are set up through Mercy Charities. That's mrcicharities.org, and you can go on that site. And it'll be on YouTube. It will be linked in the description. And why this series? I just went through that. I'm not comfortable being one of the few people that knows how to put out books, right? From the Moorish perspective. And if you want more details on that, I already went through it in the first episode of Parts of Publishing on Califa Media's YouTube channel. Don't forget, for the people on YouTube, please don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. You can do that here too. Let's see. So for this episode, setting up your publishing house. Before you have to do this, I suggest, from my experience, do this before you publish your first book. All right. Even if you have like 10, 15 books sitting ready to go, which I have seen happen, right? Moore's got books. All right. Please set up your business first, because when you go onto these platforms to publish your masterpiece, they're going to be like, okay, how do we deal with you, right? And Moore's, we're contracted. We should know about contracting, right? So have your stuff set up and be ready to present it, right? It prevents wasted time when you go to print. And again, all platforms require account setup prior to acceptance for printing and or distribution, because they can be mutually exclusive. All right. As far as business structure, you can go the sole proprietor / unincorporated association route. You can incorporate, or you can set up a trust, and that's to be covered later. Let's see. Sole proprietor / unincorporated association. I put those two together because they're basically the same, right? In both instances, whoever sets it up assumes the liability if something goes wrong. I won't go too deeply into this because I will presume that, again, I'm talking to Moors, so y'all should know better. And if you don't know, you should know how to find out, because you're Moors. We know how to do research. All right. But I will touch on it briefly. So proprietor, it equals, in my experience, it equals the individual. When you die, your business dies. So if you go through the trouble of setting something up, like I'll say Sanford and Son, right? Sanford had everything. He was set up as a sole proprietor, so he didn't have an EIN. He used his social security number to set everything up, right? And this is actually a bad example, because considering how old Sanford was, he probably didn't have a social security number. That's another story. But anyway, since everything was connected to his straw man, when he died, everything went with his straw man. So Lamont had to set everything up. He had to he had to redo the books, all this craziness. If he had set up as a corporation, everything, it just would have been a transfer of somebody else sat in the chair instead of somebody got to set up the whole business. All right. Unincorporated associations are the same. Pretty much the same thing, except you're dealing with a bunch of individuals, right? Not a sole proprietor, a bunch of proprietors. So it's an unincorporated association. And the definition I found is, because I'm all about okay, if something goes wrong, who has to answer for it, right? So in the case of an unincorporated association, the person liable on foot of a contract, so whoever is signed by a member on behalf of an unincorporated association, can be the member themselves, the committee or other members of the association who put the author or authorized the member to sign that contract, or if deemed appropriately authorized, all of the members of the association. So it's a big sole proprietorship. If something goes wrong, whoever set it up is on the hook. Again, I'm just touching on the corporate structures briefly. Corporation or to incorporate. You have numerous business structures to choose from. All right. And the business / corporation is its own entity or individual, right? Liability falls on the corporation first. All right. Then Califa Media's recipe. All right. First, we set up as an unincorporated association. That unincorporated association set up a nonprofit religious organization. That relates to why this can only be used by Moors, right? And then that nonprofit religious organization set up a holding company. All right. So the unincorporated association. I'm just gonna tell y'all how I did this, right? Because I figure it's like holy water. All the vampires, they can't do nothing with it except burn, right? They're just gonna get themselves in big trouble if they try to use this. But Moors, have at it, all right? Because it's worked for me. It's been in place for 5 to 7 years. So even it's like, well, y'all can try to dig me out now, but I'm gonna make you pay for it. All right. It's easier just to leave me alone. So here's what I did. First, set up an unincorporated association. The name of this particular association is the Moorish Religious and Cultural Institute. All right. It's an organic organization of indigenous Moors working to carry out the instructions of our prophet Noble Drew Ali. All right. And is formed under Articles of Association. This is not a temple. Let me reiterate. This is not a temple. Even though the bylaws and organizational structure mirror those of the Moorish Science Temple of America. All right. And that's funny. I set this up actually 3 years ago, I think. And then I think it was Grand Sheikh Kujo Awo El who said, you don't necessarily have to set up a temple. You can set up enterprises using the construct of the temple. All right. So that unincorporated association went on to I'm not trying to do all that. Let me take this off in a second. Nope. Yeah, give me just a second. All right. Anyway, that unincorporated association, excuse me, let me take a drink real quick, went on to set up or to incorporate a nonprofit religious organization, incorporated as Moorish Religious and Cultural Institute, Inc. So, in line with what the prophet did, he set up the Moorish Holy Temple of Science, right? And then, because of the laws in Illinois, he changed that to the Moorish Science Temple of America, and then filed an affidavit stating who and what they were, what their mission was. And then, so Moors came, from my understanding, if I understand this correctly, so Moors came up behind that and incorporated the whole thing, right? And Moors are acting like the corporation is the temple. And it's like, no, there's a couple of things that came before that. And you are welcome to use either one of those to set up your corporations that are going through the state. I refer to those as your sticks to deal with the filthy state. All right. So we have our organic organizations that are unincorporated, made up of indigenous Moors, right? And anyone who wishes to assist us. In order to do business with the state, we go through their apparatus, so to speak, and incorporate. Because again, me personally, I don't necessarily want everyone to leave. And even if I did, it's like, wow, how is that going to happen? Think of the logistics. So In the meantime, do like South Africa, leave everything in place, replace the people, right? So anyway, so the Moorish Religious and Cultural Institute Incorporated is an incorporated entity of the Moorish Religious and Cultural Institute Unincorporated Association. It's the stick that engages with the state fraud. It's incorporated as a nonprofit religious and or educational corporation. So it's still tax exempt, right? Because I mean, it's right. It's like, how do you want to be tax exempt? Do you want to be tax exempt via the Moorish part, which because you're indigenous, tax exempt because of the religious part, or tax exempt because of the cultural part, tax exempt because of the educational part through the institute? Take your pick. It doesn't really matter. And for the record, I cannot remember who I got it from, but I stumbled across that name on Facebook. So shout out to, and it was an elder brother. So I'm not claiming that I came up with that. I saw he had already had one set up. So I'm like, that's amazing. Let me see if I can do something with that, right? And so I guess that's part of why I'm doing this. If you can do it, do better, please take it and do better, please. All right. So set up the Unincorporated Association, going through the Califa media recipe. The Unincorporated Association, which was Moorish, or is the Moorish Religious and Cultural Institute, which set up the non-profit religious organization, which is the Moorish Religious and Cultural Institute Incorporated, all right? Whose bylaws, both of these bylaws and organizational structure mirror those of the MSTA, but neither of these are temples, okay? Okay, so the Moorish Religious and Cultural Institute, MRCI, or Mercy, so I can stop saying that because it's starting to wear me out, all right? Mercy Inc. went on to set up a holding company, all right? The first of which might be many. This first one is Califa Media Holding LLC. This LLC operates as a pocket, all right? It is used to collect and distribute funds generated by the corporate end of the Unincorporated Association. It does not generate its own revenue. So when tax time comes, the most I can report is is a loss. If I choose to report, because it's a holding company. Just by the very name, it's like when the IRS comes looking for people to, bleed. Oh, holding company? It's a pocket. It doesn't make any money. It just collects and distributes. It doesn't actually generate any revenue. And the way this one is set up is a disregarding entity right now anyway. So, right now it will only ever report losses and donations. That's another story. All right. Oops, I just clicked out of it. Okay, so this holding company, again, excuse the outside. The bylaws and organizational structure mirror those of the Moorish Science Temple of America. All right. I hope that made sense. So, for those who think, aren't I just giving in by going the route of using state organizations? Yes and no. So, yes, because, I'm using the state organization, right? And yes, I am using my social security number to do it. I'm doing this because I don't want any other Moors to have to do this, all right? It's called taking an L. But I was set up to do this, right? It's like, I don't know if you've ever seen any, fantasy, sci-fi episodes where a child was taken and fed poison in order to make them poisonous to whoever they were going to be sent to, all right? So, in my case, yes, I have a social security number, but I defy any European to claim that, you got a social security number because you have one. We get to do something with you. Okay, usually that social security number has to be backed up by some more stuff. Like, what are you calling me, right? My actual so-called name, which isn't even correct because the legal definition of name is something Christian, right? So what I am called, my leaflet, which is the actual, what you call it, YCLECPT. I think that's how you slept, right? Is Tahita Najula L. So for folks who see that on the books, that's actually what's on all my paperwork. And my father actually said he did that on purpose so no Christian could ever claim me, right? So I'm gonna take that. I used my social security number to set all this stuff up to make it easy to collect these resources to transfer to a temple where they will disappear. And then the Moors who can go up in there and they don't need social security numbers to access all the stuff that I access for you, right? And Mercy Charities is something that I'm working on. That's another thing. But anyway, that's the why I said, am I giving in? Yes and no. Because it is the most expedient way to get business done. And the reason why I kept reiterating that the bylaws and constitution mirror those of the Moorish Science Temple of America is because these businesses, all of these structures, stand at the ready, set up to be nationalized. So as soon as the Moors are ready to take their place, Venezuela did it when the Europeans tried to steal their oil, but they messed up by signing a contract with one guy instead of the whole nation. So when Hugo Chavez said nationalize, he snatched everything, and they couldn't even sue in court to get their stuff back. Because he claimed it on behalf of the people. So everything I've done is set up to be nationalized as soon as we are ready to do that. As soon as some temple wants to take it, right? And then I have experience trying the indigenous route, the straight, pure, uncut Moorish route. And I was blocked at every single turn, right? So I basically, took the back door to open the front door. Right? So I used everything I did. I didn't set up a bank account until I set up Califa Media Holding. Because every time I tried to set up any bank accounts or credit accounts using the name Moorish, run around until I was like, you know what? This ain't worth the effort, right? I see what you're doing. So I set up all the Moorish stuff and then set up the Califa Media stuff and use Califa Media to set up all the accounts, right? And then once those accounts were established, now I'm coming in and setting up stuff with the name Moorish on it. Because now you got to justify, all of this stuff. You've been letting me have accounts. What's the problem now? Is it because I have the word Moorish? Nope. It's all, I swear, I set up Mercy Charities, the charity arm of all of this, and they were helping me because of the relationships I had set up prior and didn't give them no problem helping. We were both making money because of our relationship. So now that I come in with the name Moorish, you don't even care because you see, all you know is our financial dealings, right? So that's why I'm saying, that's one of the other reasons why I'm saying, the fraud, yes, it's fraud, but why not exploit it? All these other nations that are still here until they are invited or compelled to go back to where they came from, they're using this stuff in the meantime to benefit their communities, right? And when they have a problem, it's not like, well, you got a license, you can't exert your rights. That's not going on. Right? Oh, you got a corporation. You can't use that to make us stop doing this. Nope, that's not going on. So, it is a kind of a go along to get along thing, but I like to think of it as an iron fist and a velvet glove. My South Node is conjunct Mars in Aries. I'm tired of fighting folks. There's got to be another way to do this, right? All right, so wrapping up. All right. Upcoming, because hopefully, Allah willing, this is part 2. There will be more. Upcoming will be the technical and digital parts, such as your ISBNs and the Library of Congress control numbers. What to make sure you have in place before you release your titles, i.e. grammar checks and making sure all the references are cited. Where you can so-called print. I put so-called print because it can be physical, digital, or audible. All right. And where you can publish / distribute, because those don't have to be the same thing. Just because they print your stuff, like I think Lulu, they'll print it, but they might not necessarily like distribute it on Amazon and all that stuff. So yeah, they can be mutually exclusive. And so our book, to wrap up, our books can be found at califamedia.com. That is CALIFAMEDIA.com. And if you like for those watching on YouTube, if you like the shirt, available at califamedia.com/more store. And the mala provided by Brother Sarush L at Made by Sarush, SARUSH.com. He hooked it up. Oh, and this is I think it's the Madagascar pink quartz. Yes, and it works. Let's see. And our works can be found at califamedia.com. Again, the t-shirt, Moorish American t-shirt, can be found at Spreadshirt, Teespring, Redbubble, Studio 6. All of those are search for Califa Media or search for Moorish. Should come right up. Other works include mercycharities.com, mercycharities.org, thepurplepaperclip.com, and finally, our thanks to the Moors. Thank you, Talib, for sitting through this. I appreciate that. And I will be in contact with you about the 2 books you've sent me so far, on top of the other stuff you sent before. But I'm actually working on a book, working on a fundraiser, actually 2 fundraisers. So I will be in touch with you about that. I like the pressure, so it's all good. All right, so yeah, thank y'all for that. Oh, that's 32 minutes. Perfect. All right, beautiful. So thank you for following through. For those listening on the stereo app, this will be uploaded to YouTube and will include my lovely face and my links to the sites mentioned and notes. And on that note, Islam, peace and love.